Hello and welcome to TKQ&A, questions and answers about transitional kindergarten. I'm your host, Amy Moser, UPK coordinator for the Kern County Superintendent of Schools. We have been so fortunate on this podcast to have what I would consider experts in the different topics that we talk about. My guests would say they are not experts, but I'm going to say I feel like they are experts, and my guests today are no exception to that. I am very excited to have on the podcast two representatives from the California Department of Education. I have your director of the Early Education Division at the California Department of Education, Stephen Profiter. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
And we also have the Associate Director for Early Education at the California Department of Education, Shanna Birkholz-Vasquez. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Amy. Good to be here.
Can you guys each just take a minute and give our listeners a little bit of background on who you are and kind of what your roles are at CDE?
Oh, absolutely. So, personally, I am I'm the dad to two amazing daughters. Both were in TK. One was early admittance TK. I've been at CDE for about 17 years or so. Spent a lot of time in fiscal policy for early education and nutrition, and operated a family childcare home. I mean, truly, I was the back end kind of office person, while my wife did the amazing work in our family childcare home. But that's a little bit about me.
Wow. Okay. So a rich background in all parts of the mixed delivery piece of UPK. Great.
You could say that? Yeah.
Great. Shanna.
Sure. So I, for the last 5 months, I think, have been the Associate Director of the Early Education Division. Before that, I was the Administrator of the UPK Implementation and Support Office. And so my role was just that, to help support the implementation of transitional kindergarten and UPK and the mixed delivery system. And before I've been at CD almost 3 years. And before that, I was in the system as an educator and an administrator for over 30 years, everything from preschool through the collegiate level. And so just really excited to take everything that I did while I was a teacher and administrator and hopefully support the system at CDE.
Okay, well, great. We are so happy to have you both. Thank you for saying yes to my crazy request to come on this fledgling podcast and share with administrators and teachers who may be listening more about transitional kindergarten. So the question that we're going to talk about today is, how is offering TK a benefit to school districts? So that's kind of our frame of a question. And thinking about what we know about TK implementation, it can be a bit challenging. This is the merging of two systems, essentially, early education and the K-12 system. And our team often jokes like none of the administrators woke up one morning and said, man, I wish they would put young 4-year-olds on my campus. This would be amazing. But that is what they got. And so I think it's hard sometimes to find the positives and the benefits when you're buried in all of the implementation and trying to get this off the ground. So thinking about adding TK to this system, can you each talk a little bit about what are some of those benefits and why is this merging of early ed and TK such a great thing for our school districts?
I think to start with, we want school leaders to know what's exciting about having TK on campus and how it can help with preschool to third grade alignment. I mean, what's not exciting? I think being in a classroom with 4-year-olds, this is one of the most exciting groups of kids to be around. There's so much learning and development that's happening in these TK classrooms. A few reasons that we could think of thinking about the push up of early childhood education practices like play, and how that could be pushed up into the K3 space, those early primary grades. So thinking about like the use of child learning centers or child-led learning centers to create more joyful learning spaces, so children want to come to school and foster a love of learning early on. And also uplifting the knowledge of TK teachers, and how that can support K3 teachers in that practice. Um, Another reason, connecting with families even earlier. You're getting to the families in your community a year sooner. So those partnerships with families can start earlier, and so you could have an earlier opportunity to strengthen homeschool connection, which may be more sustainable over time. Another is thinking about the achievement gap that shows up later in testing later in grades. So TK is an opportunity lever. So providing high quality instruction and learning opportunities to children before kindergarten, we may find that kindergarten teachers, or even later, won't see so much disparity in kids' skills at the beginning of kindergarten. And then I think just finally, we may see higher third grade test scores, which I know a lot of administrators, think about, right? So the
Sure.
earlier that we provide high quality instruction to kids aligned to the preschool and TK learning foundations, the more support we could provide, especially crucial for English learners, low income children, children with disabilities. I just think it pays off. It pays off.
So when you think about, you mentioned P3 alignment, can you share a little bit about maybe like a definition of what does P3 alignment mean in the scope of when you're talking about TK and what that alignment could look like? What does that mean?
I could start, and maybe Shanna may want to add some more. But we think about kind of coherent, curriculum that's coherent, where we're building off of kids' knowledge and skills that they develop across, that spectrum. I don't know, Shanna, if you wanted to add any more.
Absolutely. And like Steve said, it's building that coherence, and it's also getting all of people in the room to talk to each other about the child. And so when I think of that continuum, I think of the opportunity for the TK teacher to help support even as the child moves into kindergarten. And then we continue to push up the great child-focused, play-based learning up into kindergarten, and then also up into first and second and third grade. It means that there's no gaps or of knowledge or repetition of skills, because you have the educators in the building talking to each other, really getting to know the child and the family, really creating a great support system all the way through, so that there's similar experiences and conversations, so that it benefits the child and the family.
I think what's great about what you said is that those play-based practices that we are really helping teachers to understand and administrators to understand the importance of play and how children learn through play, pushing that up through K and 1 and 2 and 3, and helping teachers and administrators to understand that TK and play are not an isolated piece, that's going to move itself through that continuum, and that K through 3, there is room in instruction for those play-based and more developmentally appropriate practices for the age group that they're serving.
Absolutely.
Yes. Do you see play in those TK classrooms being something that will transition easily through P3? How do you feel about that alignment moving forward?
That's actually one of the things that I'm most excited about. I'm excited about the opportunity for principals and administrators to learn and grow in their knowledge around what it looks like to go walk into a TK classroom, and that pushing all the way up to third grade. I taught kindergarten for a lot of years and had some administrators who had a depth of knowledge of early learning. And I had some administrators where that was a space they were not as familiar with. And so they didn't always understand what it looked like to be in a classroom that was play-based, but also highly focused on the skills that children need to develop. And so one of the things that I'm excited about is this ability for administrators to learn what a developmentally appropriate environment really means. And that would mean in TK, we don't want to see desks or worksheets or workbooks. We actually, and also don't really want to see a lot of teacher-directed whole group instruction. So it should be busy classrooms with different learning centers for children, things like dramatic play, an art table or easels. These were things that when I taught kindergarten, I had some administrators that I really had to spend some time educating them on the importance of sensory tables, with STEM materials and science activities out in the room where children could engage in inquiry activities. We want an environment where things are at, child level, labels. And I see all of those hands-on materials and manipulatives, loose parts. I really seeing TK at the elementary schools as a way to infuse that all the way up into the early elementary school, into the elementary school P3 space.
Shanna, everything you said makes my heart super happy to hear because it's the same messaging that we're giving the districts as well. Play, not all direct led instruction by the teacher. It makes me so happy to hear it. What I also heard you talk about that kind of was leading to my next thought was the administrators and what they know about child development. And our team here at KCSOS is like directly in the field working with administrators, working with teachers, and we know that they really are doing the best that they can and they want the best for their students, but they don't know what they don't know, right? So they were never exposed to early childhood as a part of an admin preparation program. So this is like brand new information for some of them. So you're right about teachers having to help educate them around why these practices are important. So thinking about your administrators and that kind of approach for early learning, give me some thoughts around them kind of immersing themselves into that child development ECE. How can they support that?
Well, one of the things, and I want to highlight, is all the work you're doing in Kern and being fortunate enough to be at one of your recent events where you had administrators in the space and you intentionally were creating opportunities for them to learn and grow. And so just wanted to say that I thought that was an excellent step in supporting them. And then the next thing I think about are our preschool TK learning foundations. These are our learning objectives and goals for transitional kindergarten. And I would recommend administrators spending some time to learn about the different domains of learning where the focus is on engaging in child-led play and activities and experiences for students. There are examples in the PTKLF so that administrators could really take a look at what would be going on in the classroom. We also have on our website a curriculum checklist that goes through and details what you should see in a TK classroom so that you start to familiarize yourself. So if you walk in there and you're like, wait a minute, why is there this play kitchen taking up so much space in this room? Well, the checklist will help give you the background you may need to know why all of those materials are in the space. Or if a teacher comes to you and says, I really need all of these loose parts, it would also help to inform you on why those are critical and how those could be used and engaged. We also have videos on our website that could help administrators. If they don't have time to read all the documents, we understand that, but there are overviews that you can take a look at on the website, as well as we've been trying to push out some social media that will also help administrators with real bite-sized information on what's in the PTKLFs and what those could possibly look like in a classroom to help them in their learning and growing.
And shameless plug, they can listen to this podcast and they can hear CDE representatives Shanna and Steven talk about the importance of TK in their districts, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So, Steven, do you want to add a little bit maybe about curriculum? So we get this question kind of around, well, are there standards? And we had an episode, and our CPIN lead came on and talked about the preschool TK learning foundations. And we know districts are looking at curriculum, and administrators are supporting teachers with that. Can you talk a little bit about that TK curriculum piece and how administrators can support that with their teachers?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say Shanna mentioned the curriculum checklist. I think that's a great place to start. I think we'd also encourage folks to not just buy the pre-K version of K-5 curriculum and call it a day. Do the research and work closely with teachers to find a good fit. And then teachers, educators are going to need support in implementing new curricula, and you should be prepared to provide that kind of support and extra professional learning time to kind of accommodate, or not accommodate, to kind of
We lost him for a second, Shanna.
We did lose
Yeah.
him. One of the things that I would piggyback on while we've lost him is the importance of not just the curriculum, but also the assessments, and making sure that we look at assessments that are developmentally appropriate and don't involve long test times or have that testing feel that we sometimes see. So one of the assessments that we use in our California State preschool programs is an observational assessment like the DRDP. And we feel like that's a really great assessment that could also be used in TK, where it ensures that teachers are engaging with students, and it can feel more playful as teachers observe and record their observations around what students are learning and their next areas of growth.
So, and for administrators, understanding that DRDP, or the desired results developmental profile, that assessment is observation based, right? And so that may be something that carries itself forward, that may not be unique to TK, that can be moved forward through kindergarten, through first grade, through second grade, through third grade, that those children can also be assessed through observation practices and not just paper and pencil, rote memorization of material, worksheet after worksheet. There is an opportunity there to take that from the TK and pull that through to that third grade.
Absolutely.
And Stephen, you were talking a little bit about the pre-K, like not just ordering that curriculum, and I think it made me think the same thing could be said for taking kindergarten curriculum and thinking, how do I water this down so that it's TK? But that does not make it TK.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely right. I mean, you think about and I apologize for dropping. I'm not
That's
sure
okay.
where I dropped, but thinking about like the preschool and TK learning foundations and the different, they're kind of, written in a way that educators could see kind of where children should be at kind of different ages, right? And so if you think about that and how it's written, it goes up to age 5.5 based on like what we know children can do, but like it's not necessarily at kindergarten. I think it's we should be looking at the PTKLF, not necessarily like you said, watering down a kindergarten curriculum.
Great. And I think thinking about those teachers now, as we were just talking about that, and you had mentioned to me as we prepared for this, thinking about how TK benefits a district with the workforce and how supporting the workforce and the community partners can be a great part of this implementation of TK in districts. Can you guys talk a little bit about that workforce piece, community partnership? How does that benefit TK in the districts?
Well, I think there's preschool programs in communities, and it may be even on staff. So I think to that end, like thinking about like a needs assessment of educators, are they all from the K-12 world with specific kind of experience in K-12 specifically, or are any former preschool educators? Um, I mean, everyone will bring a rich background in some areas and need support in others. So finding out what the needs are and through kind of like a needs assessment, per se. Um, I think we'd suggest, professional development on the preschool and TK learning foundations and classroom management.
I think that sometimes we don't think about early childhood educators being maybe called upon to help their district partners. So thinking about those California State preschool teachers who may be on a district campus that are not really affiliated with the district fully, but are a great treasure trove of resource of developmental practices and how early childhood works, and maybe could support those TK and KA teachers up through third grade to understand more play-based learning, to get ideas. But I think what you're saying is the conversation has to start somewhere, right? Like we have to start looking at who's in our scope and who can we pull in to kind of help support this.
Absolutely. I mean, I think about all of the campuses that I've been on, even just in my own district campuses. The literally the preschool yard like backs up to where the TK and the kindergarten kind of the back where the TK and kindergarten kind of yards are, right, where the kids go play, right? So they're on the same campus in so many situations, right? And you've got the same, but the administration may be different, right? You may not have like the principal, right, who's kind of in charge of TK-12. You may have a different kind of person at the district who's responsible for, or maybe they're at a county office of education who's responsible for preschool administration. So those conversations are so important, and sharing knowledge in that joint professional development, with people who are on the same campus.
Yes, we're working very hard on that, trying to bridge those two worlds. And it's difficult because, again, this is a complete systems change, and we are merging two systems together. So there will be little bumps. So we're almost, oh, go ahead, Shanna.
One partnership that I wanted to just bring up that I didn't hear mentioned was our expanded learning opportunities program. And if LEAs that have expanded learning programs on their school site, I think that's another really great opportunity to collaborate and provide support, professional development around supporting our young learners in the expanded learning programs. And so just wanting to highlight, that's another really great opportunity to collaborate and have conversations. And then just to highlight on California Educators Together, in our UPK P3 space, there is a whole section on expanded learning and how to make sure the spaces and that the time spent in those programs are really developmentally appropriate for our TK and K students.
Right. Great point. I didn't even think about ELOP. That's not what came to my mind at first, but thank you for bringing them up. So we're kind of at the end. It goes so fast. So wrapping up, thinking about our overarching question, which is how is offering TK a benefit to school districts? What you guys kind of shared with us is that it supports that P3 alignment. Those practices can go up. You talked a little bit about closing the gap for education on some children. It helps family engagement. We're serving our students with special needs, our dual language learners, those children who need support and service are getting it at a younger age and able to be a part of that school district system. You also mentioned for the administrators to really kind of immerse themselves in early childhood and become familiar with what practices they see in ECE and how to support their teachers in understanding why TK looks the way it does and how that can extend through their P3 scope. And then third, we're talking about pulling in our resources of the workforce, professional development in order to support those practices, again, not just for TK, but this feeds into a greater scope of this P3 alignment for districts, and that there are resources right there on their campus that they could be utilizing to learn those practices. Did I hit it all?
I think so. I mean, yeah, in TK, it's a community effort, and we're really happy to see. Just shouting out Kern, you mentioned it a little bit about mixed delivery, but we saw in the survey data that we get from planning and implementation that Kern's UPK coordinator regularly communicates with mixed delivery partners. So you're doing the work, right, and truly making this a community a community effort. It can't be implemented to quality without the support of the broader community. So just want to really uplift what you all are doing in Kernan. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm excited that you guys were on. Again, I tell all my guests this, we would have to have a second episode because we try to keep them short, but then we start talking and it goes long. So I for sure will reach out again if you're willing to talk a little bit more about UPK specifically and implementation, because that's another level of getting our administrators to understand how they fit in that broader scope of UPK. How does TK fit in that, and how can they kind of be a part of that UPK system? So I would love to have you both back to do that at a later date when your schedules permit.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen and Shanna. I so appreciate you being here today. And thanks everybody for listening. You can catch us on Spotify now or on YouTube. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening.